Alright, hello, my name is Osborne, and this is my submission to SGDQ 2024 for Gunbrella Any Percent. This is the first time that it'll ever be shown off because it's a new game, and it's a wonderful 2D side-scrolling action adventure game, and the community has like really grinded it down and found a lot of cool skips and glitches that we take advantage of in this run, and I'm super excited to explain and delve into all that and show it off if y'all will have me for its first ever showing at an event since it came out in September. So with that being said, we're just going to go straight into it. There's going to be timestamps in the description of this video for all like the cool moments of this run and stuff that I think really allows it to shine and be really appealing to audiences. And this is a game that I've personally had like a wonderful passion for, and I've grinded down a lot, and I'm super excited to just get into this commentary for it. So time is going to start once we get into the new file in easy mode. So right there. So right now, we're going to start off with a small cutscene, but we are playing as this man named Murray. As I said, we're in this like like a noir style world. It's very gritty. It's very like it's filled with action and filled with like dark tones, and something that I feel like shines a lot in this game, like the art style and just the tone that it sets at the beginning. And so this game has a lot of really cool movement options when it comes to the Gunbrella, because the Gunbrella, as the name implies, is a gun that is also an umbrella, and so we use that as the main point of combat, the main point of movement, and the main point of a lot of glitches that we're going to be seeing as we take advantage of like the little weapon options that we have as well. So in this opening cutscene, we're going to be seeing how our house is on fire. We were just out grabbing some food for our family, but when we come back, our house is on fire. We go inside, we find that our wife is dead, and our baby has been kidnapped, and the only thing left is the weapon at the crime scene, which is of course a gunbrella. We take this gunbrella and it is now ours. It is now our main weapon for the rest of the game, and so a very dark opening to a very dark game, but a very wonderful game at that, and very dramatic plot. And we're going to get into some more lore drops later, but we got to focus right now on the nitty-gritty of the run, which is the main movement options. And also you're going to be seeing that there's a cursor on screen because I'm playing on keyboard and mouse. That is very important, for one of the reasons being be able to spam through text really fast. When you're on controller, you only actually have one button to spam through text. On keyboard and mouse, you have two, both the E to interact and then the left click, which is also interact, also to shoot as well. So, but to spam through text, you can just go through both. It speeds things up really, really fast. Right here, you're going to be seeing me just go through some dialogue options to spam through. You can see how fast I'm spamming through. That's how important it is to use keyboard and mouse. And right here, we're going to be seeing some movement, as we like to call it, some wonderful, really fast movie. We kind of compare it to wave dashing in Celeste, in the sense that you're going to be aiming your umbrella downwards, and every time you hit the ground, your dash kind of gets replenished, and so you're able to just keep doing that. And that is the fastest method of traveling in this game, where you're able to just dash again. Right here is an introduction to the combat in this game, and you're going to be seeing there's these rooms that you're going to be locked off, and you can't move on until you kill the enemies in this room. That's going to be something that we're going to be seeing pretty often throughout the run, as a matter of fact. We're going to be seeing that more here. We're going to see the introduction to gorehounds, pretty basic enemies. They will attack you if you let them, but as long as you're able to handle them pretty well, they shouldn't be too much of a problem. So right here, we're going to try and get to Orwell, which is the main first town of the game, but in order to do that, we have to go over here and fight these enemies. If you know, enemy AI is nice, sometimes a frog will jump into that flaming barrel and you're able to just grab it, able to just immediately exit the room, because that's a room that you can only exit if all the enemies are dead. And after that, we're going to grab 3 rats in that sewer area next there. We could have grabbed the bandage, but, you know, it didn't spawn out fast enough. So, you know, we're going to be on the riskier side in this run, because, of course, we're grinding in this PB. And so we're just going to go along with it. We got to talk to this guy, and you can see my cursors over specific parts of the screen so that it quickly hits dialogue options. So we can just keep spamming enough to, like, stop and make sure we hit the right one. And we're going to be trying doing that as much as possible throughout the run as well. And so now we're going to be grabbing these rats, and we're going to be giving them over to this lady over here, so that we can get a ticket to Orwell, or specifically a ticket to the train that allows us to go back and forth between Orwell and all the other cities here. And so right here, we're going to go to Orwell Station. And we're going to go straight over to the outer part of Orwell, which is Outer King Station, we should say. And now we're going to go into this main area where we're going to get introduced to more combat sequences, specifically these enemies that can actually have guns of their own, including this machine gun right here, where we're able to just immediately reflect the bullets off with our gun. And these guys, we can able to just, as long as you're not like within sight of them, you can just shoot them, and sometimes they'll drop money, sometimes they'll drop items that you can sell for later. It'll all depend on just how the game is feeling that day with the like item drop RNG. And so those things are very useful for us, especially because we're going to need more money later. We're going to get a grenade, and we're going to shoot the power that allows this bridge to stay closed, that it opens up for us. And so without that, we won't be able to progress. And so we're going to be going through here, and we're going to be dealing with some more enemies, these primary gunmen, as we like to call them. And so they just shoot like 5 bullets at a time. As long as you're not like within range of them, it should be fine. They don't like home in on you, so as long as you're able to avoid them, it's pretty simple, pretty standard enemies. Much more of an upgrade from the core hounds. And so right here, we're going to be doing some very specific movements. That one of the things that is very important about this game is making sure that your movement is tight and as refined as possible. With a game that it has as fluid movement as this, that is one thing that is very, very important to do. So now we're here at Orwell, and we're going to be talking to this guard because we can see that the other side of Orwell has been blocked off, and that's because the mayor has been kidnapped. We have to go and find the mayor, who's been kidnapped by a cult, because of course there's cults in this game. It's like a whole subplot. We're barely going to get into it in the speedrun, in terms of plot at least. We're going to talk to Bill, who runs Bill's Pills, which is like the shop here, but he's going to give us a code because the guy on the other side of that building is going to open up the sewers for us. We can go underneath if we give him the right code that Bill just gave us. The code is different every time, so when you talk to Bill, you cannot just like spam through. You actually have to stop and read what the code is, because it's different every single time that you play the game. So theoretically, there is a fastest code that you can just spam at like the top option, but you rarely will ever get that. And so now we're at Orwell Sewers. And so we have more gorehounds here. You can see they're going to be dropping some items. Some of these gorehound pelts, some of them will drop eyes. The eyes usually cost more than the pelts, but we're going to be needing those because we want to sell them for later. And of course, you just want to make sure that you glide across the water there. Make sure your movement is refined, and you don't get in the way of a lot of these enemies. We're going to be skipping this gorehound right here so you can get towards that machine gun faster. And it did drop a coil, which is great for money. And we also saw that enemy dropped some rifle rounds, which is important for us as well, because those rifle rounds allow us to kill the boss faster. We actually, every single time that we see a rifle round, we're going to want to try and pick it up, because that allows us to get the kill on the first boss of this game pretty quickly. But now we're going to be following the cult members into the cult hideout, and you might be thinking, why don't we just walk into the cult hideout? Well, we could, but of course we want to be respectful, and we don't want to, just walk in unannounced. They're gonna close the gate on us, and we literally just could have just walked across and killed them, but for some reason Murray decides not to. But now we're going to talk to the shop owner, and because he has a key that allows us to enter more of the sewers, again, to the Cult 45 hideout a different way. And so we're going to be going in through that way. We're going to be picking up the rifle rounds as we're on our way there in order to use for the boss later. We're going to kill this guy to see if he has something for us, or we're not. I thought I did, but apparently I didn't. But now we're just going to go to the rest of the area. Now this bottom section is going to connect to the Cult 45 hideout, but we're going to be doing some more movement sections here, and we're actually going to be grabbing some money here for later. And we're going to be grabbing some more drops from enemies as well, whenever possible. This specific room is, I love the movement here so much. A lot of up and down movement. You want to be able to replenish your dash as much as possible by just getting onto walls or onto the floors. Anytime that you touch anything, your dash replenishes, so you're able to easily dash again as quickly as possible. Being on the safer side, trying to kill the machine gun so it doesn't kill us. And now we're going to be climbing up here. And that next room right there will be the Cult 45 hideout. Start of the split. Boom. You can see the mayor is here, and we're gonna be talking to the mayor. He has a key for this room, but not for his jail cell for some reason. And we're gonna be climbing through here, killing these enemies along the way, hoping that they drop more items for us. But the Colt 45 hideout actually allows us to get introduced to a new enemy, and this is a sorcerer. These sorcerers have these balls of magic that actually home in on you, and so that's like a really bothersome part of like the speedrun, because sometimes you're going to be sometimes they can be like way off screen and they'll just shoot you and try to home in on you, so you want to be really careful with that. And you want to make sure that you shoot them and kill them as quickly as you can, because their attacks are shockingly difficult to avoid. It is possible to avoid them, due to their homing nature. They are really difficult to avoid. In this room, we're going to have a specific code. Of course, the code is already known to us. We already know it, and so it's the same every single time. That's thankfully a piece of the puzzle that's not like RNG or anything like that. So now you can see there is a prisoner here. Her name is Goldenrod. If you had talked to a woman named Scarlet, she would have told you, hey, can you deliver this note to Goldenrod? And that's how you kind of like know more about like the quests of this game and like the lore. But you don't have to do any of those quests or lore. You can just go. And so we're going to be going across here, killing these enemies, and as much as we can. I try to kill all the enemies in this room just so we can get like as many drops as we can, because sometimes the enemies like will have when you kill them, they'll just spawn 25 coins instead of you needing to like go to a chest or something like that. And so those are very rare spawns, but they're spawns that happen nonetheless. And so yeah, those are going to be very useful for saving stuff up later. That's another room in which we had to kill the enemies, but that's a pretty quick kill. And so now we're going to go straight into this next area, open up the drawbridge so we can go and find the keys for all the jail cells, and of course save Goldenrod in the process. And we're actually going to be getting up to our first boss here soon. Of course, we want to navigate this room with all the spikes, and we're going to be killing this guy and getting a grenade out of here so that we can grab so we can get a quick kill on the boss even faster. Grenades do a large amount of damage, and it'll be very important for this next boss, and that includes the grenades and all the rifle rounds that we had. And so in this next room, we're finally here. You can see that the cult is trying to make sacrifices to make these monsters come alive in order to work for them. And so that's a wonderful plot point that we're gonna barely cover in the speedrun at all. Of course, they're gonna give us the keys, but then they're gonna threaten to kill us, but we kill them first. And that's just the preamble to the boss. Instead, we're gonna be grabbing. They're gonna be readying up our grenade before the boss starts, so that we can immediately shoot it. Then we don't have to worry about like shifting from one weapon to another. We're gonna be shooting boss. Boom. Gonna be using that. Then we're gonna be using all the rifle rounds that we have. We have 12 rifle rounds, which is pretty ideal. What allows us to get the quick kill on this guy. He's already lost one arm, which is how you know he's halfway through. That boss is dead pretty quickly, because as long as you're able to just not let him touch the ground, he will just slowly come down and slowly put his head down so you can shoot him every single time. So that was a wonderful quick kill. That boss was called BAYBEE. There's a lot of different bosses in this game with very unique names, such as Baby and Mama and Nephew, and we're going to be skipping a good amount of those bosses. So now the Wraiths, and oh no, Goldenrod is dead. Because we killed the demon known as BAYBEE, all of these Wraiths appear, and one of them of course killed Goldenrod, because we can't have anything nice in this house. But actually that's a very shocking moment in the game when you first play it, and that's where the demo ends, believe it or not. Right after you kill Goldenrod. And so right here we're just going to be exiting and escaping the Colt 45 hideout, because it's ridden with Wraiths. We need to leave, and we also need to go and save the mayor, which is the reason we were here in the first place. We're going to be doing a pretty hectic movement, and want to avoid all the enemies, because they're going to be distracted by all the enemies we didn't kill. They're going to be distracted by all the Wraiths, and so we want to just, you don't have to worry about any of that. We can just go on ahead and exit the level. So we don't have to talk to the shop owner again. The game kind of wants us to in certain cases, but like we're not going to. And so right here we're just be enjoying this cutscene where we're going to explain to the mayor, hey, we need the train system, because we're going to go and try and save our daughter. We're trying to find this guy named Max, who has kidnapped our daughter. And we're going to be having small back and forth discussion here. But he doesn't care about our name, even though we have a name. It's Murray, but we are a bit of a silent protagonist in this case. So of course we can't have much part in the conversation. So now we're gonna go straight to Allendale. Allendale is a pretty important part of the speedrun, even though not much happens there. The reason being is because this is pretty much the only shop in the entire game that sells Sawblades. It's a type of weapon that we can use and we can shoot from our gun, and it's the most important weapon in the speedrun, aside from, of course, the regular shotgun that you have to do basic combat. And the reason being, we're going to get into it in a bit, is it is the most broken weapon in the entire game. It allows us to do a lot of really cool glitches and a lot of really cool skips because of it. But first, we're going to go back here to Bill's Pills. Correction, Super Bill's Pills, not to be confused with Bill's Pills. Different owner, different person, different name. And so, of course, a lot of people are named Bill, as he says. So we're going to be selling everything that we collected up until this point, and then we're going to be buying Sawblades. We're just going to be filling up on Sawblades. We want to save as much money as we can because we're going to be trying to buy Sawblades later in the run as well. But that's all that Allendale is offering us for now. Allendale, in this specific run, actually, Allendale, there's not much that happens in Allendale. In the All Hearts run, or like in the completionist runs, you do have to do a good bit of Allendale. But at any percent, we're actually going to skip like all the stuff that is to Allendale, and that's a lot of stuff. There's 2 full bosses, and a lot of cutscene and a lot of story and a lot of dialogue that we're going to be skipping entirely right now because we're going to be doing a thing known as, of course, Allendale Skip, in which all the Sawblades that we just bought, they have an effect. And that effect is that, like, they push you backwards every time you shoot one. And the devs, I like to call this the backwards long jump effect. The devs forgot to put a backwards cap onto the speed that you can have. And so you just spam Sawblades and you just build up backwards speed. And then you can clip through screens entirely by going straight to Mount Sajecka like that, and skipping all of the quests and all of the story that you have to do in Allendale. No joke, that skips, like, 15 minutes worth of content in a speedrun and like 2 hours worth of content casually. That's a huge skip. It skips, again, like 2 bosses, 2 full storylines, and like a lot of character interactions. And so now we're at Mount Sajecka. Mount Sajecka is a pretty difficult part of the run, mainly because there's new enemies, new difficult enemies, and there's these pitfalls. And you're going to have to start the whole room all over if like you fall at any point. Of course, thankfully we don't do it here, but that's a pretty hefty time loss in this game. And the enemies are pretty difficult and pretty hard to manage with, and so you want to be really careful with what you do, especially because the enemies are have faster reaction times, and they do pretty much the same damage. Anytime you get hit in this game, it does 1 hit point of damage, 1 heart, and so it's not like they're harder, there's just more. It's not like they do more damage, they're just more enemies, and they have faster reaction times and different attack patterns, and so their attack patterns are kind of harder than what you're mostly used to in the run. Especially these like grubs you can see digging underground, and of course these hawks. Those are the main 2 that are pretty huge points of time loss. As you can see, they're hard to deal with sometimes, and usually the closer you are to an enemy with your gun, the more damage it'll do, and sometimes the hawks take like 2 or 3 hits before they die, unless you're like really up close to them. And so now we almost died there, but thankfully we saved ourselves with the umbrella. And now we're going to be doing the exact same thing we did to get into Mount Sajecka, to get out of Mount Sajecka, by building up that backward speed in order to clip through that door, and just completely bypass another entire like mini boss that we were supposed to do, known as the Beast. That's called, of course, Beast Skip, and that saves like a solid minute or 2 in the speedrun, and a really hard boss. So thankfully we don't have to deal with any of that. And now we're going to go into the prison, kind of in the prison industrial complex here. And as you can see here, we're meeting up with Max, the person who kidnapped our daughter in the first place. You can see our daughter right there. And so, because this is a pretty important moment for Murray. In this section, of course, you want to make sure that your brain doesn't go on autopilot, because these cutscenes are both like driven by the spamming of the text that you have with both E and and left click, but there's also gameplay portions that you have to like actually pay attention to. You can't just turn your brain off. You actually, of course, have to pay attention. This is not, as much as I want to say this is like downtime in the run, it's only downtime from like the really hectic stuff, but it's not downtime from gameplay. You still got to pay attention and make sure that everything is right and you're doing all these things correctly, and you're not wasting any time by just standing around. And so we're gonna go down here. You can see that like this is a bit of a lore update where Max is kind of planning something big. It kind of sounds like this ritual that's gonna be happening in this perfect world named Avalon, and that's gonna come into effect later in the run. And it's gonna be a pretty hectic area because it's gonna be the final boss of the game. So a lot of foreshadowing coming around here. We're gonna get control back of our Gunbrella real quick, just we can do some quick movement to get into this next room before Max does. Get a sip of the Coke Zero. And gonna go straight through here. We're also gonna be introduced to two people that technically we have already been introduced to in the context of the game, but because we skipped all of Allendale, we don't have to like deal with any of that. There are these two cops in the game. One of them doesn't have a name. The other one does have a name that I forgot. But as you can see right here, we can meet one of these cops. This is the cop that doesn't have a name. And so right here, we're just going to be seeing him talk to Max and plan out. Of course, we get caught though. Because Max, as great as he is at sneaking in, he's not the master of subtlety. And he stands right conveniently at the spot that just pulls him through the ceiling, and we're gonna get arrested here. And so this is kind of the first confrontation that we have with Max in the story, and so we get like this is like a huge lore drop because it's about halfway through the run in terms of story right here. And so this is also like a pretty good time for like hosts want to say anything, and a nice downtime for the run to just take a breather from the hectic stuff that we've been working ourselves out with in Mount Sajecka. But one thing that I haven't mentioned yet is I think this game has like two states to them. This is the pre-time skip state and the post-time skip state. And so theoretically, we have to go back to like Allendale later and do a specific mission that we can only get through via Allendale. And so you're probably thinking, why don't we just skip to that? Because and we can't do that because the Allendale has a post time skip state, and so we have to go through this section in order to unlock the quest that'll allow us to progress with the rest of the game. And so we do have to activate the time skip, and there's really no way that we can like skip the time skip. If it was a time skip would be like an amazing name, but that's something for future theorization. But right now we're having a flashback to the scene that happened right before the beginning of the game where our wife died, and we're going to be leaving out finding food for us and for our family, and there's a knock on the door. Of course it's Max here to kill our wife and kidnap her child. But yeah, that is the full cutscene that'll mark the halfway point of the run. So 3 years later, 3 full years later, if you can believe it, that's time skip. We're going to be exiting to main menu and then starting that cutscene again, because there's a small portion later in the run where when you transition from one screen to another, it kind of just stays at a black screen, and it has to do with the time skip, the fact that you did that glitch. And so just exiting to the main menu and then restarting the file will kind of like reset everything, and that like small black screen of death will not happen. And so right here, we're met with Connie, HOAG, and Eli. Connie is, they're all pretty important characters. HOAG, I want you to get emotionally attached to him right now, because absolutely nothing bad will happen to HOAG. But now we're in prison, and there's a giant squid monster infecting the prison. If you could believe it. Where did this one come from? I have no idea, but it's here, and now we have to deal with it. Eli gets taken by the monster. HOAG somehow manages to save him, and now we're here with Connie. For some reason, Connie just has dynamite in her cell. Don't ask me how she got it, because I don't know. I don't even think she knows. But she's gonna blow up the boxes instead of just moving them. And now we can just go down here and meet up with the rest of the gang. So now we're back over to the gameplay, and the gameplay here is a little limited only because we're in prison and we've been stripped away from all of our clothes and our weapon, and so we do not have the ability to wall jump right now. We do not have the ability to use our gunbrella. All we have is the clothes on our back, quite literally. And so right here we're going to meet up with HOAG and Eli. Somehow they're alive, somehow, some way, but where there's a will, there's a way. And so now we're going to be going through a pretty difficult section, like unironically, because of the fact that you're like pretty limited in what you can do. It's a pretty difficult section to keep up with, and there are certain moments in which like there's a way that you could have avoided getting hit by that gorehound, but like it's just faster to just tank it and just keep going. And now we're going to be going down here and keeping up with some of the movement here. We're gonna accidentally get hit because sometimes like when there's only two like boxes with a bit of space there, it's a bit of bothersome to like deal with. But right here we're going to be just walking through, and we accidentally get hit by that icicle there, and because of that fact, we're actually going to back it up in a pretty specific way, because you can see our movement is a bit impaired because we're on our last heart. But first, before I explain that, we actually have to get into this pretty important decision that just looks like it's spamming through text, but it's actually something that's going to be imperative to the run. So right here, Connie is going to give us an offer to steal the minerals that has been being mined in these prisons, which is called Crude. And so we have the option to either steal it or not steal it. In any percent, you have to steal it in order to have the fastest option. And so we're gonna first die because we want to replenish our health. That's how we're going to back it up, because the moment you die, we just had a save point, and so the moment you die, you get all of your health back, and so we can keep our movement up and not have to risk like being too careful as well. But the reason we chose that we needed to use the Crude is because that'll allow us to get more money for later in the run, and the downside of that is, unfortunately, HOAG dies because of it. Because you steal the Crude, raids will show up later, and those raids will kill HOAG. And so, unfortunately, HOAG has to die. And so, like, that's an unfortunate thing we have to see. But that's just the way this run rolls. So we have our gear back, which means you can wall jump, and now we have our umbrella back, which is hidden in a pretty secluded part of the mines, and we have these enemies here. Come in, see what's up, and we're not going to save right here because we have a full health. Usually I would, well, looks like we do. I keep forgetting that we do. But usually we want to save there just so there's a long like portion before we get to like the next real save point. And so if you're confident enough in yourself, you could get it, but you know, with unless I have like full health, or I might even do it with 3 health, but it looks like I chose to do it this time with even with 3 health. I would just go past it because sometimes like that it's difficult to do a lot of these sections without getting hit. And that's kind of like where a lot of runs reset for a lot of people, including beginners, because of how easy it is to get hit in the mines. Like, it's really easy to get hit, and there's not a lot of save points. Of course, that's like mitigated with the more skill you have, and of course for safety in the marathon, I would make as much saves as I possibly can. But we're gonna grab that Gorehound pelt again. We're still wanting to pick up as much enemy like drops as possible in order to get more money. The Crude will give us a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, a lot. But of course, every little bit helps because we're gonna buy pretty much 2 more full inventories worth of Sawblades during this run, if not even more, in order to do similar skips that we saw earlier. And so we're going to be climbing up here. Avoiding this wraith in this room that kind of feels like a maze in a lot of senses, and this should be the last like major area that we have to deal with like a wraith before we meet up with Connie and Eli. And we're just gonna go through this next room, and boom, Connie and Eli are right there. And as you can see, HOAG isn't, because unfortunately HOAG is dead. As I said, he had to die for speed. It is the fastest way to beat the game. However, in contrast, in like all hearts, which is like the completionist category of the game, you have to save HOAG. And so we have like a different way of like mining for resources and getting money, only because HOAG will later give you a half heart in order to um, in order to HOAG will later give you a half heart in order to replenish your health in order to get to all your hearts, as the category implies, of course. And he gives that to you for saving him. So we're gonna get those Crude shards, and guess what? BAYBEE, we get a minecart section. All my homies love the minecart section. It's a little finicky, and a little difficult to maneuver sometimes. As long as you keep spamming right click, you will consistently move forward with an umbrella, but you also have to slow down a bit, because you have to shoot some enemies that are in your way. Ideally, they wouldn't be in your way, but like the tentacle arms that come out of the floor and the ceilings, those are always going to be in your way. You cannot avoid them, and you actually want to slow down a bit, because sometimes they're like right next to each other in quick succession, and you have to wait for your, like, just like a shotgun in real life, it has to reload, and so you have to like wait a little bit before you can speed up again. Otherwise, you're going to get hit by the second pair of tentacles. Another thing that you have to keep in mind in this section is that, like, whenever you enter like a new screen, do not dash immediately, because otherwise you're going to clip through the floor. You have to wait a little bit and then start dashing. And so small things like that, including just the enemy RNG of like where the bees are, how the bats want to behave, and this specific weapon, like the machine gun that shoots downwards on you, those are all really annoying to deal with sometimes, and they're all things you have to keep in mind, such as that bee. Like that bee was not nice to us. It's very rude. And you also get hit by this machine right here, and so we're going to be, of course, saving once we get to the end of this. We want to, of course, be very careful, jump over that guy at the end. We were able to get in with our body intact and our hat still on our head. So we're going to save right here, just because we're pretty damaged and we don't want to be impaired for this next section, which is actually going to be another boss. And usually I would get there's a bandage in this room, and usually I would get it to save for later, but since we have full health and we have to replenish, I will not be getting the bandage. Instead, I'm just going to be getting the mystery stake right here, boom, and then leaving. The mystery stake is something that actually replenishes your health, but we're not going to be using it for that. We're going to be using it to sell later, because it also goes for a large amount of money. And so in this next room, you want to be careful here, believe it or not, because like you're going to shoot this guy, and then as soon as you spam through the text, you're going to shoot again. If you shoot too early, or if you spam through the text too early, you will shoot too early, and then that like tentacle will not retract downwards again, and then you will run into it, and then you'll like fall down, and technically the cutscene isn't over, but the game hasn't registered that you're falling and you're in like the death plane, and so it'll take like a full 30 seconds to respawn you, and it's pretty bothersome and a hefty time loss for no reason. All you have to do is wait a little bit. But right now, we're going straight into the second major boss, which is the tentacle monster that has been haunting us this entire time. This is like a boss that, like, it doesn't really matter what weapon you use. The eye is its weak point, and it will do the same amount of damage for every hit that you do onto its eye. Theoretically, if you use like rifle rounds, you could do more damage per second. But because of the fact that like there's only a limited amount of money, and we don't have any places where we can buy rifle rounds without like sacrificing pretty important resources up until this point in the run, we're pretty limited into what we can use with our just typical shotgun shells. In the second phase, he will shoot out bees, but again at the end of the second phase, he'll do the same attack right here with these yellow orbs, and they'll turn into little tiny other orbs. But all we have to do is hit him again, and as soon as we finish him off right here, boom, that's it. That's the second major boss down. And prison break is pretty much the longest section of the run, and so now we're out of prison, and we are freed. All that's left is Eli and Connie. I'm so sad that HOAG isn't here, but that's just the sacrifice we had to make for the sake of speed. But yeah, Eli is going to go to Orwell, and Connie is going to go to Allendale. We're going to go to Allendale. In all hearts, we would also go to Orwell to meet up with Ollie, because he's going to have a quest for us later. But at any percent, we're going to stick here. And yeah, we're going to go straight there. And that's the end of the prison break section. we have our Gunbrella back, so you want to like get back into the habit of just like spamming your right click and moving diagonally to get back to the same motion, the same movement patterns, like so. But now we are post time skip, post 3 years later, in which the entire world has kind of become this like, or at least this area that we're in has kind of become this like post-apocalyptic place that's been overrun with wraiths. Towns are destroyed, people are dead, and Max is trying to find a safe haven Max is trying to create the safe haven known as Avalon for people to come and like find shelter in and have as their habitat. And that's where we're off to right now, but we have to do a few things before we get there. We're gonna go to Allendale again from the base camp. And so that's the end of Prison Break. It's the end of the split. We're gonna go. We never have to come back to base camp ever again. Split. And now we're gonna go straight to Allendale 2. Allendale once again is just right now is just acting as a transitional area because the thing that we're gonna be doing here is we're going to be buying Sawblades and then immediately going over to the next major area. And so we're gonna sell everything that we have. And we're going to buy more Sawblades because, of course, we can never get enough Sawblades in this game. And we still have $353, which is enough to buy another, like, full inventory of Sawblades, which is important for later. And instead, we're going to be going underground. Typically, you want to go here because if you keep going to the left, we're going to see, like, there's this new, like, religion or, like, cult that has been developed while we were in prison. And they're kind of, like, disguised as new good guys, but they're really bad guys. But we're going to be instead going through here, using the Sawblades to clip to the left through that wall and into the next screen. We still have 25 Sawblades left. I just wanted to check there, which is why you saw me change it over there. Because we want around like 20 to 30 more for another skip that we're going to be doing. And so going through here. And now we're going to be doing the train sequence. The train sequence is actually a pretty fun sequence, a pretty difficult sequence as well, but a pretty fun sequence because a lot of the movement, because you're on like a moving platform, a lot of movement can be a little bit hindered. But of course, that's just natural for what the game wants. This guy is going to make a lot of train puns to us and then try to kill us, but instead we're going to kill him. And so we want to get to the end of this train sequence as fast as possible and also as untouched as possible because there's very limited like save points in the next area. And so we want to be very careful with what we do. And right up here, we're going to be bouncing up. And you can see that the movement is pretty like weird in this area sometimes because we're on like moving platforms. We're going to pause for this gun to keep going. And we're going to be going up here, avoiding all these enemies, trying to shoot them, try to get as much drops as we can. Of course, you try to get their attention. One of the things you need to be cognizant of is the Sorcerers on the train. This is another example of this. If you pass by the Sorcerers, they could be like 20 feet off screen, and they will still try to kill you with their magic ball, and they will usually get you. And so that's another part of the run that you need to be really careful of. This is Mama. Let's see if we can try to get a quick kill on Mama. It's a pretty difficult boss, but it looks like we got it. Yeah, Mama just dies, like within the context of the game. The game kind of builds up that you're gonna fight Mama, and then Mama just dies because she didn't watch her head. But now we're at the processing plant. The reason that we're here is because part of the plan to get us over to Avalon will be using a shipping container, like hiding in a shipping container. But the shipping container needs a shipping label, and so that's what we're kind of here to get. All of this is for like just a piece of paper for a shipping label that we need to put on our shipping container. And so we're going to be going through here, and the processing plant actually introduces new enemies, such as these snipers that have rifle rounds in them, which is important for selling and also for just general weapons later in the run that we can use in order for the final boss and also for bosses later, of course. The Sawblades that we have remaining, we're going to be using right here to clip through this wall. Perfect. And still with 3 left over. And we're going to be trying to avoid these enemies, but also trying to kill them because one of their drops. We're going to be buying more Sawblades here because there's conveniently a shop in the processing plant. I don't know why, and it conveniently sells Sawblades. And we're going to be using 8 of them to get up here. But now, we're with these enemies, the sticky bombers, they have, of course, shoot sticky bombs, and usually they will also drop sticky bombs. And this is a common theme in the processing plant where you really want to collect all of, if not most of, the drops you get from enemies here, because specifically the sticky bombers and the flamethrower guys we're going to be introduced to, I believe, actually in this next room. Yeah, the flamethrower guy. Usually the flamethrower guys, they're always going to drop flamethrower fuel, and the sticky bombers will always drop a sticky bomb. We want to get as many of those as possible. Those are both going to be really important things to use for bosses later in the run. We're going to do a nice little skip there. You also saw that like there are these like conveyors, belts, and also all of these hangers. We actually skipped a large portion of we actually skipped a large portion of the processing plant that would have activated levers that would have turned on all of these conveyor belts, that would have turned on all these hangers, but instead we skipped them using the saw blades so that we didn't have to deal with any of them. So they won't move around, but thankfully there's like ways around those, and there's only one real like conveyor item that we have to turn on, which is the hydraulic presses, which is what we're doing right now. And that's because they pretty much act as like real physical walls, so long as they're not activated, and now they can go up and down. That's the only one. But like the hangers, we don't have to, the hangers and the hooks, we don't have to activate. The conveyor belts that we're standing on, they don't have to activate. You can go through the entire facility without needing to activate them, and honestly, a little easier to navigate the entire area without them moving. And so that's very useful for us in the run. We're going to be going through here. Technically, you can get that before it goes down, but it's really, really difficult, really tight. So we're not, we don't usually go for it, especially because if you get squished by it, it'll like have a piece of your health down. We're going to eat that apple for safe measure. Going to get onto that hydraulic press before it goes up. It brings us up. We get a fast cycle on that. And now we're going to go through the second half of the processing plant, but we still want to like focus a lot on getting flamethrowers, flamethrower fuel, and sticky bombs. But we're going to pretty much avoid all of the riflemen now, or the snipers, I should say, and do some really nice movement here through the run. And now we're going to be going through here, getting onto these hooks, some wonderful nice movement, and we're actually going up to the home stretch of the processing plant. There's another flamethrower enemy right here, where we're going to try and grab his fuel. Perfect. And there's some sticky bomb enemies right here. You can see that I'm trying to avoid the sticky bomb. This guy gets like conveniently just more damage done by the hydraulic press itself, and so we can get more sticky bombs right here. And then boom, now we're here. That is the shipping label. That is pretty much the end of the main chunk of processing plant. We still have to do, technically, 2 bosses, a mini boss and then the main boss. But we're actually going to skip the mini boss section. Instead, by, of course, you guessed it, using Sawblades. And now this is the boss. This is the mini boss. It's programmed by one of the cops that we saw earlier. And we're going to skip this mini boss by letting this cutscene play out and then using the Sawblades that we have left in our inventory to just cut through right here on the left side. Boom. And conveniently, your health actually gets replenished like automatically by the game after you do that boss, which is very nice of us. For us, I should say. And now, right here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a really huge quick kill on this boss. The quick kill on this boss is using the flamethrower fuel that we got in the processing plant. All I have to do is shoot him with flamethrower fuel, and that's it. There is a bit of a manipulation that you have to do in order to make that happen. You don't want to move around him. You want to kind of stay in front of him as he's like shielding you with his umbrella. And so as long as you like just jump around a little bit and move around, don't stay in the same spot. just keep moving a little bit in front of him, but make sure you're always in front of him and always in range of him. That quick kill is actually pretty easy, and it's really fast, like 4 seconds, you immediately kill a boss. And you don't want him to like activate any of his other phases, because if you do, it's a time waste and also really difficult to manage. And now we're back in Allendale 3. Allendale 3 is again, another transitional area in the game. It doesn't really add too much in terms of story, but in terms of the speedrun, it's another important point, because we're going to be getting some Sawblades. We're going to be just buying these, filling up, and we're going to just trust that we have enough. We should, because we only need Sawblades for one real component, which we see we have like 48, I should say. And so that's more than enough that we have. We're going to meet up with Merle right here, who is a character that we were supposed to get introduced to a long time ago, but we skipped all of the story that introduced us to Merle. And so instead, she's going to ship us off to Avalon, and so we're going to get into the real final areas of this run. And we're in the home stretch now, and Avalon is a pretty beautiful place, and a pretty hectic place, because we're going to be doing again 2 major bosses once we get there. And so right now we're just going to be shipped off, a nice little cutscene, some downtime the player can breathe in, and actually the first time that it actually has like a small cutscene where you don't have to like spam through, and so you can like actually turn your brain off for like just a few seconds and just let the game do what it needs to do. You have to spam through here, and then it'll show a cutscene of the boat going to Avalon. And so you can just take a breather here. You have to spam through any text. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And it's a really nice breather before like the home stretch of the run. There's only around 10 minutes left. And all of that is going to be spent in Avalon. And so right here, you can go straight into Avalon. We're going to meet up with this detective guy who mistakes us for being like a cop, because of course we have a Gunbrella, and in this universe the Gunbrella is only owned by cops, but of course we stole it off of a cop who killed our wife. And now Avalon, the opening sequences of Avalon, since it's like in this like public space with a lot of people and a lot of citizens, we're actually going to be hiding our gun for a bit, and so we're going to be having some kind of limited movement. The main idea of Avalon in this universe is like this corrupt safe haven, and so you believe that like this is a safe haven from all the terror of the outside world and all of the like the demonic stuff that's been going on outside of Avalon. But of course, like the person running it, Max, and the cops and everyone has like corrupt motivations and desires, and there's this big event that's going to be happening, that's kind of implied to be like this ritual, that it takes place in Avalon, that will not end well for the citizens, but of course will end well for Max. And so that's kind of like we're here to stop, and then of course get our daughter in the process. We want that as well, avenge the death of our wife. But we're going to be going through here, and this guy is going to talking to these 2 brothers here. These 2 brothers are pretty important because we need them to activate the plot, because we need to go down to the laboratory, and one of them works for the laboratory, and we're going to have their special access card in order to activate the entrance to the laboratory, I should say. And so this first brother saw that the second brother is upset with like the laboratory stuff, and we're gonna go and interact with him. But of course he doesn't like it. He just like, get out of my face. Like, why did my brother do that? I don't need a cop telling me what to do. Because everyone here still thinks that we're cops. But yeah, this is again another moment where it feels like there's a nice breather from all of the hectic stuff that you do leading up to this point, especially because right after this section we're going to be really hammering in all of the hecticness with the 2 bosses that we're gonna have, because we have very specific strats towards them, and pretty cool moments that we're gonna be seeing, and moments that we're gonna be using our Sawblades and different weapons to use all the quick kills. But this is like the final cutscene that we need to like go through before we can get through the first of 2 bosses. All right, and so he's gonna listen to us. And here's the part where we reveal that we're not a cop. We're actually on a mission to find Max, save our daughter. That's kind of like we reveal who we are in this situation. We get the dun 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 music, which is amazing. And the soundtrack in this game is beautiful as well. Just an overall amazingly well-made game, and a beautiful art, beautiful music as well. We're gonna exit updated Mask of the Red Death, which is the final quest line here for the game. I'm gonna enter here. You can see that I'm jumping. There is no evidence that jumping increases or decreases your speed. I just like to jump. And so we're gonna go through here in the elevator. We're gonna use the access card that we had given to us by one of the brothers to go back down to the laboratory. And here in the laboratory is where we're going to fight the first of two bosses. The boss that we saw was one of the cops that we saw earlier, the cop that arrested us and put us to sleep and put us in prison for 3 years. We're going to be fighting him, and he is, in the literal and also gaming sense, a tank, because he just will not die. He has a lot of health, but we have a specific way of mitigating that health as best as we can, because there's a specific attack that he does, and we're going to be manipulating him in order to have him do that attack consistently, and by deflecting and manipulating that attack, we're able to get the most damage off of him. But of course, here we are, and here is another lore drop where he reveals that Avalon and Max have been experimenting on different babies. And I'm not even kidding. This is look here, they're just been experimenting on babies. There's a baby experimentation plotline. It's wild. And so here we're gonna ready up and gonna do this pretty ambitious fight and a pretty precise fight. There's a lot that goes on here, and it might not be too obvious, so I'll explain it. So right here, we're gonna be shooting him twice and then backing up a specific distance. We want him to do that attack, and the reason we want him to do that attack is because we can deflect all of the bullets back onto him, and that does the most damage per second towards him. There are 3 different attacks that you can do, and they're all based on how close or how far away you are from him. If you were too close to him, he'll just do the attack where he jumps over your head. If you were too far away from him, he'll drop bombs from the ceiling. If you were right in the middle in that Goldilocks zone, he will always do that attack until you can just reflect the bullets back onto him. And you can see that is the objectively fastest way to do it in the speed run. As long as you deflect all the bullets back on, it'll be perfect, it'll be fine. This specific attack, we do it perfectly pretty much here in this PB, and as long as it's able to, you're able to do that every single time, you are golden. It's much more difficult than you think it is, because you want to be able to precisely know to give a window to shoot him twice to get that health down as much as you can, and then back up a specific map, but not too far, but not too close. And also manage his own movement with it as well. And now we're gonna go here, shoot this guy, reflect his bullets back onto him, and then shoot him. These enemies are really difficult to deal with, but if you have the proper way of dealing with him, you can just shoot them like that. That guy was being a bit finicky there, but that first guy was a good example of just deflect the bullets and then shoot him twice. Those enemies are pretty tanky and pretty fast as well, and they use a lot of health. And so this is an elevator sequence. We're just going to skip the elevator sequence by, of course, using Sawblades. What else do you think we're going to do? And then we're going to use the rest of the Sawblades here to actually skip through, not clip through any walls, but just to gain more momentum so that we can easily skip through these sections like that. Boom, perfect. Just enough speed to get us to the other side of the room, but not enough to clip us through a wall or anything like that. And we're gonna grab 2 grenades here. We're gonna grab one on that side of the room, one behind the gun. And usually, if you have enough saw blades, you could also saw blade through here as well. But that's not, usually you won't have enough saw blades to get to that point. But right here is the final showdown with Max. He's kind of with our daughter. Our daughter is like 3 years old now, so she's like cognizant and stuff. And so she is able to realize that she is in danger, but it's kind of like a Stockholm syndrome kind of situation where, like, for all intents and purposes, Max is her father. She doesn't know who we are. She was kidnapped when she was like a baby. She has no idea. She doesn't recognize her face. And so, right here, we're going to be facing off with Max, and Max is just like, "What are you gonna do? Shoot me in front of your daughter?" And then we shoot him in front of our daughter. And before we get into the final boss, we're going to be grabbing another grenade because these grenades are going to be really, really important for this boss. We're gonna like put them in our inventory first. We're gonna like load them up first before getting into this boss, so that we don't have to load them up right here. And now we're in this final cutscene where Max is going to be like pushing our daughter nearly off the ceiling, and our daughter realizes, oh, this man is not who I thought he was, and she's going to hide behind us. Max will then collapse to the ground, and the quest will be over. But that's not the end of the run. You didn't think it was going to be that easy, right? Of course it's not. We need to actually fight the final boss. But as I said, there's a whole demonic possession timeline to this story, and Max is going to get possessed by a demon and call himself Daddy. Come to Daddy is what he says. And that's why the split is called Daddy. Especially because, you know, the other bosses are called like Mama and Nephew and Baby. This is a very intentionally meant to be Daddy. After the line that he says. And so he's going to turn into this monster, and then we're going to do the quick kill. The quick kill is pretty nice. We're going to throw some grenades at him. Boom. Boom. And as soon as that happens, we're going to shoot some sticky bombs. We're going to shoot as much sticky bombs as we can. This is why we got all the sticky bombs earlier. And you want to keep shooting them, and the moment that you hit right click, all the sticky bombs are just going to activate all at once. Like so. And we're just going to keep shooting them because look at how much damage that does. As soon as you shoot a few more, time is going to be up when we heat. Right there. That's time. Time is going to be right when we like do the final hit on Max. And so that's time. We're going to be using all those sticky bombs, and that's pretty much it. Like that's the whole run. That's the boss. Right there. Look at that. That's everything. That's all we need to know. That's time. And that's a wonderful execution of the final boss quick kill. Could have been a little quicker, but of course we miscalculated at first how much sticky bombs we needed, but even then that was a really nice execution for it. But that's all that I have for Gunbrella any percent. The next like cutscene, unfortunately Murray dies and our daughter gets to go live off her life, but she lives, and so that's very nice. And overall, Gunbrella is a very wonderful run, a wonderful community who has managed to like grind it down to the bone, as much as they can. I've even gone through the effort of creating my own category for the game, All Hearts. It's kind of been a passion project of mine, and any percent is a wonderful, wonderful run. I think it's the perfect length. It gives a nice balance of like gameplay, interesting visuals, glitches, and beautiful movement. It's amazing. And I think it would shine at a mainline GDQ, especially in person. And I'm super excited to see if it'll get a spot. And I hope that y'all enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoy running it. And so that's going to be all from me. My name has been Osborne, and I really hope you consider Gunbrella any percent for this SGDQ 2024. But that's all, and I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. See you around.